Alright then. I'm worried right now about two things. Which are, one is the banking system and the other is the digital ID. Now, I've been trying to tell everybody who has got a lot of influence, I've been posting little comments on their videos saying, please tell your followers about this digital ID and the government system that, well, there's a government paper, it's on the gov.uk website, just as everything else has been about the past 3 years. It's been on there and nobody bothers to look at it or read it. I know why, because it's couched in a language that's a bit like reading the Bible, you know. The Bible is such a good book, it's an interesting book, but it's in a language that is so dreary and convoluted and confusing that people just switch off. So I don't blame them. So this is why these online preachers like Robert Breaker have become so popular, because they're able to explain exactly what it means at each interval, each chapter, and it's brilliant. But going back to the government website, the digital ID and the banking system. The digital ID is very, very important. If you can fill out that form and, you know, read the language very carefully. If you don't understand what it's asking, listen to Richard Vobes' video that explains how to fill in the form, because the language that it's got in that form, it's basically saying, oh, isn't this such a nice thing to do? We'll have so many advantages from it, and it will be so good for the whole world to do this sort of thing, so why not do it? It's encouraging you to accept what's going on. But digital IDs will be like these 15-minute cities, 15-minute areas where you're supposed to not travel more than 15 minutes in your car. And before long you won't be able to walk more than that distance either. It's like an open prison basically, because once they've got your digital ID down there, they'll start scoring you, and it won't be like your Tesco club card points. It won't be benefiting you in any way. It would be penalising you. And if you doubt that, you think of what the government has done to us over the past few years. Past bloody God knows whenever they were invented. I was watching Cheers the other night, and even they said on there, they were talking, Kate Mulgrew, I think she was acting as the local politician candidate for a political party of some kind in Boston. Kate Mulgrew, if anybody doesn't know, she used to act as the captain of a Starship Enterprise. And anyway, you watch all of those and you get an indication of what's going to come down the pipeline for humanity, because that's a predictive programming type television show as well. But anyway, Cheers, I watch that because it helps me chill out. I remember back in those days, I even went to Boston and I saw where it was, not filmed because it's filmed in a studio, but the actual location of the Cheers logo and the steps down into the pub. I saw that, and I, you know, 1999 I went there and I saw that. I thought, hey, that's where Cheers is, you know, meant to be. But anyway, going back to the original point, it's difficult because I am a woman. And that's not an excuse. That's exactly what women do. We flower around subjects. Okay, we don't focus, which is what men do in general. Okay, going back to the point. Oh gosh, digital ID and the banking system. Digital ID will trap you in a prison, just like these 15-minute cities that they're potentially creating, which now that every county in the country knows about it, they're all rebelling against their councils. And that is basically where we need to start, is the local councils, because they have been corrupted by money again, and we need to keep on the toes. We need to keep on our toes so that we're on their backs, because they're supposed to be doing things that we want them to do, to keep our cities and villages and, you know, all our surroundings safe and happy and good, and you know, like, making us feel good so that we can go to work and produce things for the rest of the world. But these digital IDs, they won't be for your benefit. They will be, if you doubt that at all, look at China, okay, and see how they create it there. Just look at any YouTube video, any a source of information that you can find on China, and you'll find out exactly what is planned there. Now, with regards to the banking, we've all seen the banks disappear. We've all seen cash point machines covered up, boarded up, not used anymore, out of order, and it's all designed to make you not get the cash. And it's all by design. It's not because people aren't using them, because we are. It's because they don't want you to have this cash system. And the cash system gives you freedom. It's just like these digital IDs, they're taking away your freedoms. And it's becoming more and more and more like, a communist society, China. Okay, now I saw a video online the other day, which I'll put the link below if I can, of this homeless guy teaching you what capitalism is, and fascism and communism and socialism and what they are. And he was just stating it one sentence, and he made it so logical. I thought, brilliant. That guy should have a raise, or a home at least. But I've also been watching loads of videos in places like, Boston, all these places in America, where these wonderful people are going around filming the local areas and how the housing crisis has hit Americans. You don't hear this in the news, regular news. These guys go driving down the street, filming the roads, filming the paths where these people are just living in tents on pavements. And these rich guys in Davos are creating this. And it's so not right. I've got to do something. And the thing is, what you can do to stop all of this is to connect up with your local communities. You can still be an independent person if you want to, like I am. Okay, but connect with your local people. You don't have to make friends with them if you don't agree with them. You just have to have support. And the way we support each other is by turning our lawns, our grass verges, everywhere there's grass, churn that up and make it into a vegetable patch. Okay, that way we can survive. You can also have your own skills. Think of what you are able to provide for people in that community. And if we don't do this, we are going to be devastated, just like previous resets. You think that this is all new? It's not, I'm afraid. You only have to search online, or in any library you can see that this has happened before in the past. And it's not all by design. Sometimes it's by natural disasters, like meteors coming out of the sky, or volcanoes erupting and things like that. But wars are a biggest reason for resetting. And this thing with Ukraine at the moment, it's being encouraged to become a world war. So be careful, be on your toes. And young men, I urge you not to sign up. I've worked with the military for over a decade. I'm out of it now, but it's so demoralising. It's not what it used to be. It used to be about pride and honour and working for the man beside you, and also for king and country, or queen and country as it was back then. The thing is, now in Britain, those young lads are demoralised when they join. They join it to get away from their home environment. Even in the Bible it says, where is it? Matthew 10:34. Read that passage. You'll find out your enemies are within your own home. That's what that's saying. Okay, but what those guys normally did was escape drug-ridden environments, alcohol, gambling, all that sort of stuff, and they thought that joining the army would help them get away from those kind of things. And well done, kudos to them for trying to do that, because they thought that the army would give them structure, discipline, and help them become a better man. Nowadays though, over the past 10 years, I've just seen it go from bullying your boots and running around the parade square as a punishment to walking around the parade square with your bloody mobile phone in your hand. That's not respectful. And if you watch any kind of, even the Queen's funeral, I was watching how they were marching on there. It's gone to rat shit. Do you remember watching, I think it is the Two Towers in Lord of the Rings? And there was a scene there where the elves came to, what was it called? Something Keep. Can't remember. What happened was that the elves came up to the castle, the keep, and they all did a right turn, and then their feet went all in one sound. There was no, when you're a recruit in the army and you do stand to attention type thing altogether, it sounds like a machine gun going off, and it's definitely that when they were at the Queen's funeral, because I saw them marching out of step, their arms all going, it's just awful, because there's no practice, there's no pride anymore, there's no togetherness, it's all about individuals. We won't have a chance against China or Russia if they decide to bombard us, because it will be relying on possibly another they'll be forcing people into the army again, into the military I should say, because you've got the Air Force and the Navy as well. But the thing is, you won't be standing in this country. If you sign up, you won't be stationed in this country, you'll be sent off abroad. And what happens when you're abroad? Who remains is all of these naughty people who've been coming into the country. I'm not going to say who they are, but I'm sure you know who they are. And they won't be very pleasant, because half of them are criminals and convicts. I don't know about the other half. And it's not going to be pleasant for the people who remain. And the people who remain are going to be old people, children and women. You may think I'm sexist saying that, but that is the truth. Okay, and who will be replacing you as young men? We will have other armies coming in. Okay? UN people. And the UN are not, well, they haven't got a very good reputation. You think about what happened in medieval times, when the men went off to war. They were carted off to the Crusades and places like that. They were pressed into doing it. They didn't want to. I mean, why would you want to leave your beautiful little village in the country, farming away in peace and comfort, basic comfort anyway, just a nice peaceful life? Why would you want to get up and trudge halfway around the world to go and get killed on a battlefield for some rich guy? Why would you want to do that? They're convinced that they're doing it to save the country, but they're not saving the country. They're going off to another country. Anyway, and then what happened to the women whose husbands didn't come back? They were branded as witches, because they didn't want the old stories from the old civilization surviving. So, who writes the history books? The people who write the history books are the victors of any war, and the people who control the situation are the rich people, the religious people, and the military people. And I'm not talking about the ordinary man on the street. The ordinary man on the street, anywhere in the world, just wants to get on with life. But the people who are coming out of meetings like the ones at Davos, they're just full of arrogance and think that we're nothing. And yet, if it wasn't for us, they wouldn't be in that position. And they don't seem to realise that. There's no gratitude, no appreciation, no even willingness to consent at all that on your backs I have this. Because of your labour, because of your time, because of your willingness to produce this, they have all the riches in the world. Everything. And it's not the money that they want, it's the power. Because you think of a person who's got everything they want. They've got cars, they've got yachts, they've got houses everywhere, they've got money in the bank to do anything, go anywhere and treat anybody like they wish. Then you will become arrogant. You will look at people and think, I can do anything I want to that person. It doesn't matter to me. They're not close to me at all. They're not going to infect my life at all. So why would you be benevolent to them? Unless you have compassion in your heart, unless you have some kind of empathy with somebody, and you only get empathy when you've experienced it yourself. You can have sympathy for somebody else's cause, but you might not actually feel it yourself. You can have empathy for somebody when you've actually experienced it yourself. But this is what they're after. Control. And that control comes from arrogance. And it's a power grab, basically. That's all it is. And we're allowing them to do it. It's our fault. If we keep complying all the time and keep saying yes, 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 and bowing down and saying all these things and not having the courage to stand up and say, no, I'm not going to comply, then more fool us. I mean, it is difficult. It is frightening. It is scary. It is uncomfortable. But if we don't do it, then the kids of the future, your children, will be in prison for the rest of their lives. And do you want that for them? I feel sorry for them if we allow this to happen. I really do. They'll never know the freedoms that we had. So, what to do about this digital ID? Fill in that form and do it now. Don't think, oh, I've got 4 weeks to do it. Till the end of February. Okay, that's when it closes. But why have we got this timeline on it? No, if you can't think of the answers and you can't be bothered to watch that video by Richard Vobes, I'll put the link below, then just write an email. Bombard them with emails. Or if you don't want to write an email and you think it's going to get lost in the system, which you probably will, then write them a letter. Get a stamp, stick it in the postbox. You don't have to write a long letter, you just have to write a letter saying, no, my answer to digital ID is I do not agree with this. You don't have to give a reason, you don't have to explain yourself. You just say, not on my watch. And then you free the children of the future. You free your children and your grandchildren. And that's your contribution to history. You can change current history for the future generations. With regards to banking, keep cash alive. There is another guy in Great Britain actually who's created, I think they're environmental notes, and go to him, get notes created. Money notes, they are monetary notes that you exchange for eco value. So, and they're creating their own power stations within their own streets and the villages. See, people become creative, and if we go into this society that's being controlled by these elites, we're not going to be able to have that creation. We're not going to be able to have the freedom to think. One of the reasons why China, the Chinese people, have to copy everything, because they're so scared. They don't have a creative cell in their body. They're just complying with everything that's going on around them and thinking it's cheap to just copy something. Well, You know what copies are, don't you? They're just not the originals, and they are not as valuable. So keep that alive, keep the creative spirit alive. If you can think of anything else that you can do with society to help it stay with a lot of freedoms that we have now, or get back the freedoms that we once had, then please do start those initiatives. Be creative. Don't worry about patents or copywriting or anything like that. Just do it and get the word out there. Like there's this guy who's creating diesel from plastic. From waste plastic. He collects water bottles and bits of plastic, paper that folds around bread and stuff like that. Just learn and listen to these things. I'll put the link below. Learn new things. You never stop learning, and if you do, you've given up. So this is a begging video. So please, a begging blog. So please, please, please don't give up, and try your very best to keep these freedoms alive for the future generations. Say no to this digital ID and say cash is king, and keep it alive and use it wherever and wherever you can. And if a company or a business doesn't use cash, don't go there, or at least the option of cash. And that's probably one of the troubles, isn't it? People have been relying on credit cards. Get other people, ask for advice, go to citizens' advice and ask them, how can I get out of debt? Try to do that as much as you can, okay? Alright, over and out for today.